money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning.
Your money, your...
Didn't need that to happen. Let's try that again. Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Tuesday, April 16th. We are here live. Phone lines are open. It is the Power Hour. We've got the team here from Pittsburgh Power. Bruce and Eric and Leroy will be joining us today. And those phone lines are open. Jump in right now. Hit that call now button on your app, or you can dial 855-950-3835. We are continuing on testing a bunch of new technology. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed when we bring those guys in, everybody will be able to hear each other. I am live streaming today. I should be on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. Our suspension is over on YouTube for now, so we'll try to stop spreading misinformation so they stop censoring me. We will probably not live stream our Wednesday show on YouTube. We'll live stream it everywhere else, but it seems to be the health show that gets us in trouble over on YouTube, so we'll see if we can manage that. All right, I am going to bring in Bruce and see if this is all working. Bruce, good morning. Good, we can hear you. What's that? No, your volume is really good. Yeah, volume's good. I was hoping we might be live streaming the cameras today, but we just ran out of time to test it this morning. I've got a whole new setup. We're now that the live streaming is going well and our app is getting close to being done, we're redoing the whole studio, all new equipment, furniture, computers, cameras. So seems like we've got everything working. I spent all day on it yesterday. It's never ending. That is correct. So what's on your mind this morning? Yeah. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Um, Aaron's telling me they can't hear you on the live stream. So let me get over there while you're talking. I'll try to see if I can figure that out. So go ahead. Um, how so? Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah. It's nice to have more shops spread out around the country. I wish we had more. I wish I had more time to work on that, but we've built up some of these slowly over the years. It's nice to have that. Uh, yeah, try talking again. Yeah, so I am not, all of a sudden my audio quit in the live stream, and I'm not sure why. Let me try this. All right. Go ahead and talk again, Bruce.
Okay.
I
We'll
think I
talk
got it
about
now.
something we talked about in the past years ago. If you're in debt, if you want to climb out of a hole, the very, very first thing you must do is stop digging.
Yeah, very good point. Can you call up
Yeah.
the president and remind him of that?
Not just him, all the politicians.
I
They have to
know.
stop digging this hole. I had to actually quit watching all the news. I was watching, what was it, Newsmax, and really enjoying that show. And between that and Fox, and sometimes I'd go and listen to the fake news people. I just had to turn it all off. It was becoming too.
It is. I've cut way, way back on how much news I watch. In fact, most of the time now I don't get it from like TV. I just scroll headlines, occasionally throughout the day. Or I'll tell you where I'm starting to find the best news. I've been spending a lot of time on social media, getting these live streams set up, and I'm more active on X than anywhere else. And I am finding that is becoming a better source of news than almost anything.
Yeah, that's a lot of little tidbits come through on social media.
Yeah,
and I like them when they're short and to the point.
That's part of the problem is we have how many channels of 24-hour news now? There's just not that much happening, so it becomes very repetitive. And if you tend to watch one channel, whether it's Fox or whoever it is, the news is the same all day. It's just 10 different shows talking about the same news all day. So one of the things is you just don't need to be watching, throughout the whole day because nothing really changes that much. And then, like you said, the spin is just, the news is just negative. I mean, it always has been. Every time somebody has tried, well, we're going to do a news channel and we're going to tell feel-good story. That never works. Nobody will sit through that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we are fascinated by bad news.
So I wanted to start off to see how did things go in Phoenix for you, Dr. Wolfson's.
So it was I don't know a lot yet. So this was the initial, I gave like 8 tubes of blood and then I got an IV, and mostly it was just submitting all the testing, and now they say probably 2 to 3 weeks before we actually start looking at it all and trying to figure something out. I will tell you that IV felt really good though.
Was it vitamin C?
It was high dose vitamin C, high dose magnesium, zinc, and a bunch of B vitamins. So it was immune boosting, and it felt good. It's like I hadn't really felt normal since the trip to Louisville. I mean, I was still dragging from that. I just wasn't recovering. That was probably the first day I felt like I felt better after Louisville.
How many milligrams of vitamin C do you take a day?
I don't normally take vitamin C on a regular basis. Not one of the things I take every day.
I take up to 2,000 milligram. I did feel that that sore throat and cold coming on Friday night from Louisville, and I was up to probably 6,000 milligrams.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
For Saturday and Sunday, and then on Monday it was gone.
That's good.
But
that's what we like to see.
To not missing. So I don't miss any work days. Haven't missed a work day for 48 years, and I attribute it to the vitamin C. But you got to notice, as soon as you feel it coming, you have to nip it in the butt.
Yeah. All right, what else you got today?
You have to let me know how that works. Dr. Gallagher in Jeanette, Pennsylvania, does similar work. Brad used to fly into Pittsburgh, rent a car, drive out to Jeanette to see Dr. Gallagher. And we had a couple owner-operators. He had enough room to park a semi in his back lot. And they would get different things. And very interesting guy. Started out as a chiropractor. And he's probably 72 years old right now. And I talked to him when he was 68 the last I saw him. And I said, when are you going to retire? And he said, Bruce, I'm doing my life's work. And a friend of mine retired that made a lot of my nutrients. He moved to Florida. And every day I'd call him, he told me he was tired of playing golf and sitting on the beach and going out to dinner, and he wishes he had his business back.
Yeah, I'll bet.
There's some things to that. And if you notice in our industry, owner-operators, when they turn 62 or 65, they don't even think of retirement.
No. I think that whole model has shifted, and we're probably the last generation of that, kind of go to work, have a career, retire at a certain age. That whole work model has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to touch on gearing. I'm still getting a lot of calls on gearing. I've got a fellow that runs an older truck, and he wants to run at 75 miles an hour. And he's tried 336s and 355s. This is an older Caterpillar. And he's now looking for the housings. Rob at LKQ in Easton, Maryland is who I've been using. And Rob is looking for the complete differential setup for 247s. So we figure on like a 6NZ, 2WS, 1LW Cat. He is running tall 22.5 tires. So we're thinking he's going to be at around 1450 RPM at 75 miles an hour. The figure I have, the highest one I have, is at 65 with 264s. With low pro 22.5, you'll be at 1375 RPM. At 55, you're 1200, 1280 at 60, and 1375 at 65. But if you have differentials that were made for 336, 355s, and 370s, my understanding is that the 247s will not fit in the housing. Now, if somebody can prove that and tell me that we're wrong, I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to hear what housings, if anybody knows the part numbers or what it would take.
Bruce, I'm not sure that there's a standard answer for that. I have a feeling when you start talking about the different axle manufacturers that gets a little more complicated, that you've got to be careful before you buy a gear set to make sure it's going to fit your housing.
Right. And I can't answer that because we're not in the gearing business. People think that we are, and they call me. I've had people call and want to order a ring and pinion. I said, no, that's not the business that I'm in. We're in the engine business.
Yeah, exactly.
So you and I have changed the industry on this gearing?
Yeah,
if
no
you and
doubt
I
about
wouldn't
that.
have talked about running in direct, everybody would still be running in double over right now.
Yes. Yeah. There's no doubt when it comes to this, we've changed a lot of things in the industry. Should we, I think I've got all the technology under control. Everybody's hearing everybody now. Should we bring Eric and Leroy in?
Sure.
All right. Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning. Morning, Kevin.
All right, let me make sure that while we're talking, everybody is hearing you guys as well, and then we can get on with the show. So, Leroy, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, we had a bit of a sad story this morning. Guy brought us a truck that was low on power. He just bought it, and he didn't know it was deleted.
Oh, boy, you're kidding.
And, yeah, I mean, bought it in Harrisburg, drove it around Bobtail, noticed it wasn't right, and immediately to me, it sounded like an odd combination because it's a DD15 was a 6-speed Allison. and he said it was from a paving
What?
company or something. Yeah, that's what I said too. Bruce had an idea. That, what did you say it was, Bruce? Like you think it was some sort of like truck that.
Probably a truck that was made to go backwards and dump asphalt into the paver. So it has
Oh,
433 gears.
Yep, yeah,
okay.
433.
And the auto, no, that's a true automatic. That's not even an auto shift. That is a true automatic transmission.
Right.
I guess that might make sense in that operation too, but what an odd truck. Why would you buy this thing? What's he going to do with it?
I don't remember what he said he was going to do with it. Did you talk to him?
Yeah, he had Farm and Ag Company. He was
it's
doing
for
a lot
farm.
of yeah.
And he bought it from a dealer that sells like farm trucks.
Oh, okay.
And
That might make
and he
more
bought
sense
it.
then.
Yeah, and he just was like, I feel like I want a little bit more power, and it just doesn't feel right. So we bring it out, we put it on the dyno. It's rated for 505 1650, and it makes 230 horsepower at the ground.
Wow.
Oof.
And
Wow.
I was like, Allisons do eat a lot of power. This is kind of a familiar thing. And, I was like, but I'll do my due diligence. We're going to make sure that the Allison is not giving any sort of transmission derate, that it's in lockup. We're going to make sure that the engine's doing everything it can. And Alex, one of the other techs we got here, he went and was watching the software as it was on the dyno. And he comes back and he says, it's requesting 50. First thing I think of was, well, he's kind of new. I don't know what he's looking at because it's only rated for 1650.
Right.
I don't know what he's got on. He must be looking at the wrong number. And I go over there. It's requesting 1850, but the maximum allowed is only 1200. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd. This thing's in a giant D rate, but no check engine lights.
That is odd.
And then there's just a waterfall of all these signs. Ta-da! Right. I was like, well, the ACM's not online, the after treatment controller. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Maybe it's the software.
Oh.
And then I start looking at the parameters, and there's no EGR flow, and then there's no DPF temps, or there's no SDR action, or there's a bunch of stuff shut off. And I was like, this is why. It goes into an immediate altitude derate because someone tried to tune it for more power, but didn't do all the fuel limiting maps like they were supposed to.
They didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And probably the biggest telltale sign was when I went out there to look at it, it was smoking like crazy. Right. And no truck that I've ever seen with a DPF should smoke like that. Like white smoke at idle. Right. And I kind of knew right away then. And plus I tapped on the one box and you could tell that someone's been in there because the bolts are broken and the box just rattled. So I'm like, another sign. It all adds up. So long story short, it makes no power. It's electronically deleted. I didn't verify it's physically deleted. I'm assuming it is because there's smoke that's getting through the DPFs and the SCR. My assumption is there's probably holes punched in the DPF. And it's just really a sad thing. And I don't know what happens if he takes it back to the dealer, because that's what I think he said to you, Eric. He's like, I'm taking it back to the dealer now.
Yeah, I think he's halfway there already.
Yeah, he's going back to the dealer and like, I want my money back.
Yeah, he was pretty angry.
Because I was like, I think that's the best thing you should do, because why is it smoking? Is this an engine problem? Is it eating oil? The one box probably needs replaced. You got to put it back to stock. Is the harness okay? He just paid $70,000 for this truck, and he might be in it for another 50 if he wants to put it back to stock.
Oh,
yeah, these things are very expensive to fix.
Yeah,
this is a case where he should get his money back.
I don't know legally if you can. I was talking to you, Eric, about that. I was like, I don't know how that works. If he can force that upon them, or
so I bet he can. If this was just that it was a lemon, or you had all kinds of mechanical problems, you would just be stuck. I mean, used vehicles are sold as is, no warranty. We all know that kind of stuff. But I think the leverage here is the dealer sold an illegal truck. I think that's his leverage here.
And when I was talking to him, I actually had a good idea. I was like, well, if you go back and you could look for another truck, I was like, you can do this, and any driver can do this to make sure that they don't get it themselves into trouble. They're like, make the dealer do it a forced regen.
That's a
That
good
tells
point.
you two things. A truck doesn't do a forced regen. And two, if it finishes the forced regen without any check engine lights, that's not like it's all good to go, but that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
usually regens are going to show up all the emissions problems. So
Yeah.
that's one way to protect yourself from accidentally buying a deleted truck. Have the dealer do a forced regen.
No, I like that. I was just about to ask you, what is a simple way we could figure out if the emissions have been messed with?
Yeah, I mean, in any sort of scanner, I mean, hell, OTR sensor or those OTR
Yep.
tools will do a forced regen. It's not like you have to have the OEM software.
Got
A
it.
lot of scan tools will do, and
Yeah.
most dealers have the ability to do forced regens because that's how a lot of people think that they can fix problems. They just regen it and they think the problem goes away.
Yeah.
If I were in the market, and if I were in the market for used trucks, I would make investment for an OTR because I could use that in many, many different
Oh
ways.
yeah, you need some sort of scan tool. Period. Yeah.
Yeah, just
It-
for number one, for buyer's confidence, so
Yeah.
that I know what I'm buying. But number two, no matter what I get, I have some way of checking codes, and you have Google.
Yeah.
You try to be smart in this industry, and you don't want to be down for anything. I think that's just cost of doing business. Everybody should.
I
Yeah,
agree.
It's just really unfortunate because the guy, he's a good guy, but he's a driver, and he's an owner operator. He doesn't know a lot about this kind of stuff. I don't know how long he's been driving for, but I mean, he didn't know. He thought it was weird when it was smoking because he's like, yeah, I drove it around, and every now and then it doesn't do it all the time, but it smokes. I mean, that's like red flag number one.
Yeah.
If the truck through a DPF, that's a problem.
Yep.
I agree.
Another way you can look is just look at the stack. If it's a truck that has stacks, are they really black? Romp on the throttle and see if it roars out black smoke. I mean, I watch trucks all day long, pickup trucks, semi trucks, and you can tell the ones that are deleted versus the ones that aren't. It's so simple. And some people are so blatant, especially people doing the deletes on pickup trucks. You see these brand new pickup trucks, they're noisy. They don't put a muffler on them. They're roaring black smoke. It's like saying, look at me, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always tough to tell because he was really upset because he just bought this truck, and I gave him the bad news about Allison, how I feel about them. I don't really care for them in trucks, so that he was already depressed. And then when I broke the news to him about it's being deleted, he was fed up with that truck. He was already looking for trucks when I told him about the Allison thing on his phone in the diner room. When he saw it made 230 horsepower, he was like on his phone looking for another truck.
Oh
Like,
boy.
that's probably not a bad.
Yeah, rightfully so.
You should go get another one. So that's tough.
While we're talking about this, down here in Southwest Florida, there's a lot of tandem and triaxle dump trucks running around, a lot of old Freightliners. You can tell they've put new hoods on them. The truck may be red and the hood's white, or it's black and the hood's white. They don't put a muffler on them. They're running local. They're in their retirement communities. They're smoking. They're noisy. What's wrong with these people? Don't call that kind of negative attention to you. At least put one of our quiet performance mufflers. You'll still hear it. It still gives you a nice rumble, but you won't be so obnoxious to the public.
Yeah.
And it's every day these things are running back and forth. They're building 10,000 homes within a couple miles of me here, and so these trucks are all over the place.
All right. What else we got today? I am a little distracted. I'm just kind of tweaking our live stream and just playing around with some of the audio. So if I sound a little distracted sometimes, that's why. All right.
Whatever Eric has.
What's
Eric
that?
was going to talk about what's in the shop.
Yeah, let's do that.
Unfortunately, on with a little bit of the bad news. We have a big cam in here. This gentleman paid somebody else to do a rebuild on it, and he was having some issues with some compression, some different weird issues that almost made us sound like it had a broken head bolt, and it did. We got it in, we pulled the heads off, we checked it's got a couple cracked holes for the head bolts, low protrusion. We checked the timing was off. And this guy actually, he was angry, but he also felt betrayed. And that's, I mean, it unfortunately it does happen in this industry. You want to make sure you do your due diligence, do your homework on who you're spending your money with. You want to make sure it's a reputable shop, they have a good following. Not every shop out there is going to be 100% positive. Everybody in business knows that, but you want to make sure that you find a place that fits your needs, fits your budget, and it's willing to work with you. The next one I got is just a cat rebuild. We're finishing up. Just the sound of it. Some of the older guys out there, they can recall like a certain specific engine or model. Man, I can tell that across the parking lot.
Right.
And that same way, it just had that distinctive sound that I always liked them.
Yeah.
We got an ISX in here with a broken ring. We're doing some work on. We have a Mac in our shop today, which we are trying to expand our wings. And I'm not ready to say that we're ready to bring them all in, but we are trying to explore avenues. Leroy and Alex and JR have all done a stellar job on this troubleshooting. Just weird codes for oil cooler, oil thermostat, just weird things. And even the way the engine's set up, like the oil cooler or the thermostat, the oil thermostat was just even an oddball thing. Never seen anything like it before. We have a Detroit rebuild in here. We have a Cummins 6.7 in a little pumper truck that we've done some diagnostics on. It needed a set of injectors, and we went through and we found that the ECM was bad. Leroy actually diagnosed that one. So we have that one getting finished up. And then we have an older N14 that was a glider in here. The guy was chewing up cam sensors. Wasn't really sure why, but he was going through like a handful a year. And I'm not sure who built the engine, but again, this goes back to you really need to do your homework on this. We pulled his shop, started looking it over. It's got 35 thousandths of end play on the crankshaft. When you push in or out on the dampener, you can actually hear it pop coming in and out.
Well, that sounds bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can do things for that though. It's not necessarily like deemed for out the pasture, bury it or anything. You can do like some shims and stuff on there, but it's just make sure that you do your homework for who you're working with. But this is stuff that we specialize in. We do fix a lot of other people's mess ups. We've been doing this since 1977. We've been a Cummins dealer since day one. But this is what we specialize in, and this is also why we're a little bit out on scheduling. Like right now, we're about 2 to 3 weeks out. I'm scheduling like second week of May.
Good.
One other thing I did want to touch on real fast is I've had a couple people lately sending me their oil samples. If it's not an OPS sample or it's not work that we did or parts that we sold you, have some consideration on this, please. I get people sending me oil samples. We just had one last night. It was a Detroit sample, which I didn't even know they did an oil sample kit. It was a weird one I've never seen before on a pack car engine that we've never worked on before. And I don't mind helping people out, but how is that fair to the people that are waiting for my attention? The people that I do need to call back. Just have some consideration on that. If it's for our parts or our work or our kits from OPS, absolutely that's part of the experience with OPS. But if it's an outsider's one, I mean, it's just really not fair to us or to the customer or to the manufacturer for that matter.
No, and I'll agree to that. And then the other thing is we give them this option every week. I mean, honestly, other than Wednesday, they can send me an oil sample anytime and we'll go over it here on the air. That's what we do. If you send it on Tuesday, you get all of our opinions. Friday's another good one. Joel and those guys know oil samples as well. So there are plenty of opportunities to do it right here on the show, and we don't charge for that, and we'll look at anybody's sample. Now, I prefer OPS and Polaris samples. They're easier to read, and I trust them more, but we read samples from just about anywhere here. So I agree with you that you guys are not free tech support for everybody with every problem. That's what this show is here for.
Exactly. Yeah, we do donate our time every week.
A lot of it.
And a couple other ones.
I mean, Think about it. Many days this show is 3 hours long. It's always at least 2. I don't know that we ever quit before 2 hours. And their Pittsburgh Power supplies 3 people. That's 9, sometimes 9 man hours. That's a lot when you consider the fact that you're booking 3 weeks out. Everybody around there is busy. So we appreciate it, and we would just encourage people, when you've got a problem, clearly if you are working with Pittsburgh Power or buying parts, or your truck's been in the shop, absolutely call them. If you have questions and you want to start building that relationship, absolutely call them. But understand that they're not there to troubleshoot and then you pay some other shop to do what they told you to do.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it does happen.
Yeah.
I definitely fix stuff over the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys all do. I've seen Bruce spend a lot of time on the phone with somebody who isn't a customer. And I know he does it a lot. And it's hard not to. I mean, all of us are the same. We want to help people, and it's easy to get into that mode. But after a while, you look around and go, hey, wait a minute. I'm spending an awful lot of time on the phone, and we've got a business to run and bills to pay.
Yes. You don't want to neglect your customers either.
Exactly.
There's a lot of people out there that with every day. I don't want anybody to feel neglected at all.
Hey, just so you know, if you guys probably aren't watching the live video stream, but I have the very cool new, maybe it's new, it's the first time I've seen one, the Pittsburgh Power shirt. I'm getting lots of comments.
Yeah, I was just telling Jordan about it, and I was like, you should post a link so people could get that shirt in the comment section.
Yeah, you should. Bill just commented on it, so... but I've gotten a lot of comments this morning. I'm kind of showing it off. It's a cool shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, did we talk about, when we opened, I was going to talk about Matt Buchanan, but I don't think people could hear me.
Yeah, go ahead with that.
Matt Buchanan. Okay. He buys his catalyst. He bought a DD15 with 600,000 on it, a 2020. And it's now at 713. So he's ran the max mileage catalyst from 600,000. And at the Louisville show, he picked up a gallon of our flash point. And he said, wow, the engine's even quieter and smoother. And he was using the Power Service cetane improver. So it takes 3.5 gallons of Power Service to our 1 gallon of Flashpoint. And he likes the Flashpoint better. So he's figured out he's going to take a new gallon jug and figure out the ratio. He told me what the ratio was. He's going to mix the Flashpoint and the catalyst together and have it in one bottle. And so it's going to be 1 ounce to 10 gallons of fuel.
Okay.
Eric, do you have the mixture formula for that?
It's a 5-to-3 ratio, but I don't know what the mix is because I made a mistake on the math with this earlier. I thought if we just mixed it 5-to-3, you could just dump it in, but that's not the right dilution level, I guess you could say.
I think Bill has it, but it's 1 ounce at a Flashpoint to 15 gallon, where the catalyst is 1 ounce to 25 gallon. So if people want to mix it together so they're not mixing 2 products at the fuel island, we'll have that all figured out for you if you want to give us a call.
Got it. All right. Speaking of
I
calls,
think Bill has it figured out. Maybe he'll run it over to you, Eric, and give that to you. And
Yeah, I know it's a 5-to-3 ratio, but I can't remember we did the math one day. I'll figure it out.
All right. Speaking of calls, we're going to get to them because they're starting to pile up on us. We're going to get started today in Denver. Tyler, welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Doing good. What's on your mind today?
So, 2006 MXS Cat.
Hey, Tyler, if I could get you to come back closer to your phone? You sound like you're across the room.
Let's try it now, Kevin.
Much better. Thank you.
About a week ago, I'm going to make a long story short. About a week ago, I was out here. This truck was acting funny, kind of pulsating. As far as power, I had a power loss on the pedal. My cruise control wouldn't stay put. It kept kicking me off. And I had a speedometer acting wonky. I had stopped. We plugged the truck in. Number one injector showed faulty. We replaced it. It still didn't fix the cruise situation. I've kind of been dealing with it this week. I'm getting ready to put the truck down and try to diagnose this thing, but I wanted your guys' opinion. This morning I woke up, left where I slept at in Lyman, and all of a sudden my oil pressure ran down to nothing and check engines flying all over the place, shut down. So I stopped, no oil anywhere, shut the truck off. It was almost like it reset. I've gotten a couple opinions here. Does this sound like a ECM or maybe a faulty wire on an ECM or something of that nature? I mean, obviously I've got oil pressure. I just got fuel and started the truck back up and it's running fine and I'm showing 60 pounds, but you'll be going down the interstate here and I've got speedometers acting funny. I got cruise control acting funny. And I've got now I've got this oil pressure situation that will just come on at without any notice going down the road. What's that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you say it was an MXS cat?
Correct, Bruce.
Well, it sounds like a battery going bad in a D-Deck 4 Detroit, but wow. This is a Leroy question.
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely could be the ECM. I have seen ECMs cause the cruise control kicking out problem on the Cat. So, but I mean, if we zoom out a little bit, you have sort of two irrelated problems. The vehicle speed sensor and the cruise control have a strong interaction, meaning like, if your vehicle speed sensor suddenly drops out, that's going to kick the cruise. So those two things are sort of related. And if you look at the vehicle speed input as far as the wiring go, it's just two wires from the inductive sensor on the tail shaft that go to the ECM. They don't share any sort of wiring with the rest of the sensors. So that being said, when you look at your oil pressure issue acting up, that to me is a totally separate thing because you have like a 5-volt supply and a ground and a signal wire for all of that. That's a separate problem from the cruise control, but you can also have a situation where it's all going bad inside of the ECM, like Bruce said. If you have some sort of internal damage, like a battery ruptured, and then you have battery acid on the board, that can cause a lot of strange issues. If you have water or oil contamination, that can also cause that same issue. The easiest thing to do is if you have a test ECM, you can see if all your problems go away. But from there, if it were in my shop, I would be diagnosing those problems separately. I would be looking at the cruise control problem, and then I would be looking at the oil pressure problem separately. It might just be a coincidence that they're happening at the same time. Or, like you said, it's an ECM that's causing an issue.
Understood, Leroy. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's a reputable guy down in Missouri, there in Marble Hill, where I'm from, and he had kind of said he's seen it a bunch of times where you got faulty wires coming out of the ECM, and I guess I don't know if I like the idea of cutting and splicing into those wires, but that was kind of what he was suggesting. He's telling me it's like a 2 or 3 hour job if that is the problem, and I understand what you're saying with the separate issues. So I'll get it in there, get it diagnosed, and I appreciate everything you guys do, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Let's continue on. We're going to head off to Tennessee. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Kevin and Bruce. This is Mike with the Big House.
Yeah. How are you this morning?
Doing good. Just trucking on down the road here. Me and Mrs. are running a hot load across the country. So I had changed my gear ratios a long time ago, and I have the 226s and the Meritor axles, and I took out 342s. And I think they're 228s are in here right now. And on my rear driver, they had to change out the housing and shorten the drive shaft on that, but not on the front driver.
See, I think what we're going to find are a lot of different answers like this. You made a big jump in gear ratios, and it fit the forward differential, but not the back. I think those are the kind of answers we're going to get. It's going to be different almost every time.
Yeah, and and I like the heck out of it now that I did it. So right now I kind of got to change lanes here. Right now I got the hammer down on 12th gear, and at 70 I'm running 1165 on the RPMs.
Okay.
In 12th gear, and when I'm running 65 in 11th, it's 1265, and if I'm running 55 in 10th, it's also 1265.
Oh, you've got a nice setup there.
Now,
But the engine's
when you
so
say, I got called away for a second. You went from what to what on gears?
342s to 228.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and
did you have to change housings?
well, it fit
Yes,
the
just
forward, but not the rear. They had to change the housing on the rear axle.
on Meritor axles and shorten the drive line. The little short drive line between the axles, they had to shorten it up.
247s to 228s. And what engine is this?
It's a X15. I went from 342s to 228s.
Right, that's what I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. That is really quite a jump. And when you say you're running in 12th gear, are you a 13 manual?
The 13 auto shift, but I always run in manual anyways. So right now I'm going 75, and I'm at 1240 RPM.
And what's your turbo boost on the level?
It varies so much because right now I have a 1,300-pound low-profile aerodynamic load, and sometimes we got a 20-foot heavy container.
Sure.
But I can usually it's running around 12 if I'm scooting along. But if I back down to 65 in 11th, and that's 1265 RPM, then I'm dropping down to like 8 or 9.
Good.
But this thing.
And how long ago did you make this change?
Bruce, man, we talked about this a long time ago when you guys first started talking about it. You said I could save money, so I said, shoot, no reason for me to wait to put it in, no reason to talk about it. I went and got it done like the next week.
Did you gain fuel mileage?
I think so. I'm not. Our loads vary so much; it's so hard to tell. My wife keeps track of all of our mileage, and sometimes I'm driving slow, sometimes I'm driving fast. But I did change two things. It lowered the RPM 140 if I'm running in direct. But now that I could run in 12th at a fast speed, I lowered the RPM like 400. So I did change two different things. But what I like about it so much is it's so much quieter. Man, I'm so tired of listening to that noise.
Yeah. And when you're in direct, everything's quieter.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And then here running 12. And so when I'm running west to east, you're going down those long plains with a tailwind, I'll put it in 13th, and I'm just running, just a little bit over 1,000 RPM. But if I start to get up to about 18 pounds of boost, I downshift. And that's getting up to about 60 on the torque. I don't really let it lug down because that's right where it starts to kind of vibrate and shake. So I quickly downshift. But I run it nice and low, and it's so quiet. But if you run it lower than that, it'll start shaking the big house. The microwave starts vibrating, and the dishes start rattling and wake the missus up.
What year truck is this?
It's a 2020 T880. That's the heavy haul truck.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Got it.
Although we don't haul heavy, but it's this is my first heavy haul truck, and I like it because it's got the big radiator, the big opening, and the fan doesn't come on a whole bunch.
Good.
Good.
All right. We are.
Now, if you put the auxiliary coolant tank on, it may never come on.
Yeah. There you go. We have got to move along. We are heading off to Wyoming. Mike, welcome.
How are you doing?
Good. What can we help you with today?
Hey, yeah, I've been having issues with my SCR system in a Volvo. I have a 2015 Volvo. It's got 706,000 miles on it. And I'm starting to go through regens. I have a diesel laptop computer. I even had like a 20-year Volvo mechanic that's now a technician with diesel laptops. He was able to go onto my computer and look through my truck, and I can't figure out, and neither can he, why this thing keeps on wanting to go into a regen. And I've been, and so I just figured I'd call and maybe talk to you guys and see if and kind of see if maybe we're overlooking something. To kind of give you an idea, after I do a regen, a forced regen, either on the computer or a parked regen, everything goes back to normal and everything's fine. It comes up as a code as SCR efficiency. And so then on the computer, it directs me to like a doser onto the doser valve and looking at the how it's dosing into it. So I do a doser value test and check the flow on the doser valve. It's correct within the parameters that it says on the computer. And then I look at my differential pressures. Before I do a regen, my differential pressures are a 0.3. And then, of course, after the regen, they go down to like a 0.1 or a 0.01. And then, of course, my soot level goes back to 0. And and then I replaced my NOx sensors. And my NOx sensors, I did a conversion, NOx conversion, and they're coming back and are set back to 0. And then my inlet will be around 300, and my outlet will be around 50, depending on. And then I even drove down the road looking at these parameters, and everything seems to be running fine. I've looked at the EGR, thinking that maybe I'm having EGR going through it, and the EGR is all within spec also, so I'm at a loss.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've done all the right things. I'm assuming the only thing you didn't mention was you actually checked the depth for contamination, and that it's at the right.
Yep. We did the little site test and looking at it, and then there was a paper test. We're doing all that, and I've actually drained my DEF fluid and put new DEF fluid in it, and then I even pulled the flex hose off of the DPF filter where it goes into the after the doser valve. They say that look for crystallizing, and it's like cleaner than it can't get any cleaner. And I do use the max mileage catalyst. I've been using it on all my trucks since I started driving. So.
Yeah, so you said it was like 300 coming out of the engine and then like 50 out of the tailpipe.
Yep, out of the outlet NOx. Yep.
I mean, that's only like an 83% conversion rate. I don't know what the threshold is on a Volvo, but I mean, it's going to be 70, around there.
Yeah, they want 70. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is like, even when I'm full throttle, I've even looked at it full throttle, and they say that it's shouldn't exceed 600, and I get like 580, and that's at like 1800 RPMs, just really hammering it. And then the conversion is like a 130 on the outlet when it's full throttle. Just cruising along, it's like 240 to 300, and it's like 0 to 50 on the outlet. So I'm
Right.
at
So
a loss.
it sounds like everything is working. There is a thing with DD15s. I don't know if it's the same on yours. There's
Yeah.
a calculated value for, like, I can't remember the acronym. It's like lumped average relative magnitude frequency. Basically, it's like sort of like a long-term average of the SCR conversion. And I've heard people say the only way to get the code to go away is you do multiple SCR conversion tests back to back, and that raises that average. Every time it sees like a successful one, it raises that average over time. So if you do like 2 or 3 of them in a row, that raises that factor back up closer to 1, and then you do that the code goes away. That's what you do on a DD15. I'm not sure if it's the same. I think because DD15s and Volvos both use model-based after treatment in their ACMs.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to try. But I mean, you've done all the right things as far as doing all the right tests. You've checked all the things. And I mean, like you said, straight up, if the conversion efficiency has to be above 70%, you're getting that.
Yeah.
So I would say if you run a test and it immediately throws a check engine light, it sounds like there's some sort of long-term average that you just need to bump up a little bit. So maybe try doing 2 or 3 back-to-back SCR conversion tests.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And so the last one that I did, it actually, I never got the saying where it, and I actually never really paid attention, but for whatever reason, this last time I was like, oh, hey, both sensors were set to 0. It may have said that before, and I may have just missed it before. I mean, I've been working on this for 2 weeks and just trying to figure out, and I didn't have any problems until I changed out those NOx sensors on doing these regens. So I'm just wondering if that is the case, and just keep on doing that, because everything's reading correctly.
There's
except for
a couple ways you. Go ahead.
When I do start a regen, but it's during the regen, and it also says that you can't really take the values of the NOx sensors until it is done, because they can go in all weird numbers up until temperature. But the inlet will be at 1650 parts per million, but the outlet will still be at like maybe a 300, and I don't know if those values are correct until. And then I was reading too is that if you have high inlet NOx like that, it could possibly be a bad valve on the head. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, 1650
but
is
it
just
clears up. Then it goes away once it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until it comes up to temp, it's going to read that. So, like you said, you can't listen to the values until they come up to temp. 1650 is the one on everything that it's not ready. But one way you can actually test the NOx sensors is unplug your DEF doser, right? So it can't inject any more DEF. And then as you run it, you're going to see the inlet and the outlet number should be within like 40 to 60 ppm of each other, because you're basically just running it right through the system and seeing if there's any sort of reduction. You shouldn't get a number that is above the outlet, because that would mean that you probably have some buildup that you're burning off. Like if the outlet was higher than the inlet, the sensor's either wrong or you're burning off buildup. They should be pretty much within each other. But again, like I said, you have to kind of wait for 15, 20 minutes for everything to come up to temp.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll try it. And it did recommend that if there was crystallizing is a problem, to disconnect the doser valve and to burn it off without it dosing in there during the regen.
Right.
It said that, but I pulled all that out and even looked at the doser valve and everything, and there's just absolutely no crystallizing on there. So, but I'll try that and run it without the doser and look at those values and make sure that they're operating correctly, if that's how you do it. So.
Yeah, that's how I would do it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know what else to do, because it seems like I did everything else. So, but
yeah, you really have.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate it. You all have a good day. And
sounds good. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Indiana. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, guys. as far as the guy that bought the dealership, the truck from the dealership that had already been deleted, there's only one thing I'd tell him. I said, you sold me an illegal truck. I want full payment back for it right now. If not, I'm going to the EPA today on it.
Yeah,
They have been fining folks like that $1 million. They're going to lose their business if they sell illegal trucks.
yeah.
I just say I want my money back. I want it back right now. I mean that's just the end of it. You know, I'm going to the EPA today. I mean it's not that hard.
Now this
and,
seems like a no-brainer.
Second, go ahead.
He's got a lot of leverage on this one.
Oh yeah, he got. I mean, I'm not talking about. I wouldn't wait a day. I mean, I'd tell him. It's either you give me the check today, I'm going to the EPA today. I mean, that's just that simple. Now, second thing was this guy needs to learn how to buy a truck. He did nothing. He did none of his due diligence. He did not go. He did not go through the Kevin Rutherford school of buying a truck. I mentor dozens of people. And I've helped dozens of them buy trucks, and they've all bought well because I learned from you. And if you do the proper test, and you find trucks that you can buy, I actually like where guys can buy from a fleet that does good everyday common maintenance.
Yes,
it does good normal maintenance. There's some places out there that do it. And a lot of them, you may not be able to go. You may not be able to do an ECM download. But I found a workaround there. If you divide the number of miles by the number of hours on the engine, you can come up with the average miles per hour on the engine, and that will tell you whether it's been idled or not. If you're up in the 48 to 54 range per miles per hour, I only go 60, and my lifetime average is 54.5 miles per gallon because I don't idle.
Right.
And so if you do that, you can know that. You don't know park regens, but generally speaking, I have them find them with if they find them with an APU on there, they probably haven't been idled much. If the drivers were doing like they should. But even it doesn't matter. Everybody I have them put the max mileage in. I bought one that was idled. I bought another truck that was idled a lot before. I started putting I put max mileage in it. Tad rented it from me for 51 weeks when he was down with the one box, and he didn't idle, and he ran the max mileage, and he only had one part regen in a year.
Yeah.
And that was a truck that had been idled before, but the max mileage will help cure that a lot. And but there's ways to do it properly. I mean, that guy, if Pittsburgh Bauer can get in touch with him and have him go through your coaching or through your CMC online, he'll learn how to buy that next truck. I can tell you.
Absolutely.
Or find somebody that can mentor him.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's like I say, this is a no-brainer this time. They sold him an illegal truck. They can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly who the EPA is going after. They're going after that, and they're going after these shops, especially that are deleting all these pickup trucks. I'm seeing a lot the same as Eric was talking about. People are getting brand new pickup trucks, and then you're seeing them rolling coal in about 3 days.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know why you would mess with the pickup trucks. They don't have emission issues with those. I mean, we've come a long way. We knew we would get here. We talked about this 15 years ago. We said this is going to be just like the cars. We're going to have a rough decade or so as we make the transition. We're through that. It is very possible now to buy these new trucks, spec them right, drive them right, and not have the issues.
Correct. That's for sure. So.
All right, Steve.
All right, that's all I had today.
We're going to move along. We're going to head off to Iowa. Matt, welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Are we getting
last week I
an update?
drove that. Yep, drove that New International last week, and I was quite impressed with it.
Good.
Unfortunately, the weather didn't cooperate.
Yeah, well,
so,
that's real world.
You always talk about, comparing, two trucks. They're never the same. There's too many variables.
Right.
So considering I battled 20-mile-an-hour winds, side winds, 3 days out of the week last week.
Ooh.
My fuel mileage for my 3 tanks, 9.94, 9.68, and 10.22.
Wow.
So for the all miles, 3,548 miles, 9.99.
That is impressive.
And that's a stock truck.
That is really impressive.
The only
Holy cow.
And Matt, what speeds were you driving?
That was my normal 58 miles an hour, using the cruise control majority of the time.
Okay.
Wow.
What RPM was the engine at 50? What RPM is the engine at 58?
So if it's a 14-speed transmission, single overdrive. So in 13th direct, I was running about 1,050, and that was the majority of the trip.
Yeah.
When I got onto real nice flatland and no wind, the truck would shift into 14th and drop down to about 840.
Wow.
And it would pull along there just fine.
I think that's encouraging. I think International might be back in the game.
Yep.
The double SCR probably went through the DEF though, huh?
So I got 116 miles to the gallon on DEF.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Horrible today, but and it should use more.
Right.
I do have a whole bunch of questions submitted to the engineers, and that is one of them, what their expected DEF use is going to be. Because with the dual SCR system, we do expect higher DEF use.
You know, I'm starting to see we might want, not that we have a lot of extra resources for programming these days, but I'm almost thinking of a calculation in fuel gauges that allows you to track both and gives us an overall cost per mile.
Yeah, and that's the other problem with DEF is the price on DEF is wildly variable.
Right.
At least my limited experience, because I don't have a truck with DEF, so I do know for a fact if I bought one, I would buy DEF by the 265 or 300 gallon tote and keep it at home.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah. So it's interesting because even some of the best spec DD15s or D13s, to do that kind of mileage right out of the gate, no modifications whatsoever, and you basically hit 10, that's pretty impressive. Now, clearly you are good at driving for fuel economy. You know the routes really well, but that is still, that's a really impressive week.
Well, yeah, I went 8.4 is my 90-day average in my Kenworth.
Yeah.
With the CAT engine, and driving it exactly the same.
Right.
This truck did have an electric APU, which I was quite impressed with that.
Oh, nice. Now, who makes that? Is that OEM?
Flow. I'm guessing it's OEM because all the International LTs that I've seen on the road, they've got that vented, the passenger side sleeper.
The door.
That vent is for that system.
Right. Interesting. That's encouraging.
On that gauge you were talking about for the DEF fluid, that would come in real handy too for guys trying to troubleshoot things. I've seen a lot of people too also say, my truck isn't running right. I just don't know what's going on, but there's no check engine light. The first thing I ask them is, what is your DEF consumption?
Yeah.
Like I know on a Cummins, it's between 120 and 240 miles per gallon. If it's below that, sometimes it may not actually throw a check engine light, but we know that there's something wrong. It's overdosing for a reason. So that is a great idea. If you could come out with that on your app for the DEF consumption.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
is it not just the consumption, the ratio,
And the
fuel
cost. Right.
Isn't it? Yeah, Leroy, isn't it somewhere like 2 to 4% is kind of what the OEMs want it to be, somewhere in there, of fuel consumption?
It depends on the engine, but it also depends on the load too. Like the more power you request, the more DEF consumption the engine's going to consume. But I believe it is 2 to 4% on that one.
Yeah, I could see this becoming a number important enough to track that fuel gauges would be nice if we could track both on the same truck, show the ratio, and show the overall cost per mile.
Yeah, I didn't calculate my fuel cost per mile on that yet. I can go do that here. I'll be calling Friday with a lot more details and numbers because, of course, the first questions everybody's going to ask me is, am I going to buy one? And that's the wrong question because it wouldn't matter if I test drove a Volvo, a Peterbilt,
right?
Whatever. I'm probably not going to buy one.
Correct.
Not a new truck.
Right.
So, would I buy one is the correct question, and I would. I was quite impressed with it.
I'm encouraged. I'm very encouraged by and we expected this too. It wasn't like it wasn't like there was some really crazy weird design like they've done in the past. I know they changed a couple things on the DEF consumption, maybe higher, but we knew that this engine was built to be downsped and we should get good fuel economy, and they're matching drive lines with it. So we kind of expected this, but it's nice to see.
And yeah, so
you know what else?
Their sales side, and I just got to give a shout out. It's NCI, which is North Central International.
Okay.
They cover Minnesota. They're in Fargo, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Mason City, Iowa, the whole region. And Nick Olson is the salesman out of Albert Lee, Minnesota. He's the one who set it up. So anybody who's got questions, and Nick is very into this fuel mileage stuff too.
Oh, good.
He's asking me just as many questions as I'm asking him.
Yeah, good.
Because he believes we don't have a good enough gear ratio yet for these new engines. Thinking that because he's heard the 197.
Right.
And he's more for the fleets that want to run 75 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Well, at this low RPM, 215, we're almost too high.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that 190s is what he's pushing for.
Interesting. Hey, maybe when you talk to him, see if he wants to come on the show on a Friday.
Sure.
I think he'd be a great addition to the show on Friday.
So yeah, the big sales point they have is they're claiming this is one of the lightest 13 liters on the market.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get more details on the weight of like the crankshaft and different things there. And but the one thing he told me, and I need more clarification on what this means, is the head. They have some compressed carbon fiber parts and design in the head.
Ooh, that sounds
so they
exotic.
They are lighting up components carbon fiber.
Well, they're also missing an EGR cooler and piping and valve and all that kind of stuff too.
Yep.
That's a difference.
Yeah.
We actually
because. Go ahead.
After last week's show, we actually had an S13 here.
Did you really?
In the diner room.
Oh.
Yeah, I posted a picture of it on Trucking Tribe, and I don't think anyone knew what it was. Everyone thought I think it was Delete, but it was a strange thing to look at.
I'll bet.
Looking at the passenger side of the engine and not having any EGR cooler or anything on it. It's a fairly big turbo too. But it does the classic international hard 90 into the turbo. And I'm just like, I don't know how this engine breathes with this tiny little hole, but
David Counts would have a heart attack looking at the air filter design.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. It doesn't look natural. Well, there's I can't remember if it's like the alternator's right in front of it or something, but just the placement of some accessory just makes the airflow going into a bit rough. But I mean, it's probably still just fine. It just looks horrible.
So is this just a
But yeah,
basic
it's
turbo?
What's that?
Is this a basic turbo? This isn't.
I have a picture of it. It had an actuator on it.
It does have an
Look back
actuator.
at my picture.
Yeah, you're cutting out there, Kevin. But I'm thinking you're asking. It is, yes, a fixed vane turbo.
Okay.
Yep, it's 6-vane.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
It does have some sort of actuator that looks like it's some sort of like twin scroll sort of setup.
Huh.
Not 100% sure what that's about, but it has sort of two snail-looking things in the housing. I would need to know more about that, but yeah, it's an interesting little engine for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so of course, it's brand new, so we don't know at 400,000 or 500,000 miles what these things are going to be, but
there's always that.
The potential is there.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah, if you want to talk about one other interesting thing that's going to be happening to me on Saturday, if I got my math right.
Yeah.
I am right now 2,871 miles away from rolling 4 million miles on my own personal trucks.
Wow. That's a lot of miles.
Not including other trucks I've driven and company drivers.
Right. Yeah, that's
awesome.
a lot of miles. That's pretty awesome.
And the interesting thing, 4 million miles, and I've owned 4 trucks.
Yeah, I like that ratio.
Yeah.
Are they
So maybe I do
accident-free
need to
miles?
buy a new one.
Are they accident-free?
Yeah. Technically, yes.
Okay.
So
What about
my
speeding
only 2
tickets?
insurance claims. It's been a long time since I've had speeding tickets. I wasn't, a great driver in my younger years, and had plenty of speeding tickets, plenty of logbook violations way back in the day. Haven't had any of that, and I bet you it's been over 10 years, if probably even longer. But yeah, accident-wise, the only 2 insurance claims are both parked vehicles that I hit. So as far as on highway, it was something minor, and I just wrote a check for it. So
there you go.
So pretty
it's
close.
amazing. It's amazing where people will park a car next to a truck or a pickup truck pulling a trailer, and how they'll block you in places. And one time I had to get out of a ski resort parking area with the pickup truck with the snowmobile trailer. I had to take a guy's mirror. There was no way to get in touch with him, and so he shouldn't have parked where he did. I was in the end spot. I knew I was safe and was going to be able to get out, and he parked where he shouldn't have, and so his mirror disappeared.
I had that happen in an RV lot. You know how tight they get sometimes, and it was. I was really frustrated because it was that new toy hauler, and nobody could figure out the slides. And we had gone from shop to shop, and this shop had it for a week, and then just said there was nothing they could do. Like after a week, they decide to tell me there's nothing they can do, and I got to go over to get it. And I go over to get it, and somebody had parked in a way that I couldn't get out without my tail swing hitting them. There was just no way around it, and I thought I could make it, and you know what got me? I had forgotten that the ladder on that toy hauler was on the side, and I had left the ladder back there. I would have made it had that ladder not been sticking out. But as I was turning, it was on the blind side. You couldn't see it at all. I was frustrated, and boy, it's like, I swear that's all I thought about for a month, how stupid that was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And whenever we're traveling, staying in a motel, and you have the snowmobile trailer, I have to, naturally I'm 47, 50 feet long. I have to take up a lot of car spots, so I have to park the truck on an angle. But if I park it straight in taking up all the spots. Somebody will park right in front of me, and we're right behind the trailer.
Yeah.
So what we do now, if there's a group, we carry chains. And you drop the one trailer on the pickup that can get out, and you put a chain on the four-wheeler, put the truck in low range, and you drag the car out of the way and leave it somewhere for the people. And then we just have a stupid society, and that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Matt, anything
1 year
else?
in Kansas City at the CMC,
Oh,
there was a car parked. It's a public parking lot where we park all the trucks.
right.
And they had parked it there and left. They were on vacation.
Oh.
So we figured out how to move it.
There you go. All right.
How did you move it?
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I don't think the statute of limitations is there yet, so.
We'll leave that one alone. We've got to get to some other callers, too. We're going to go to Louisiana. Mike, welcome.
Good morning. Bruce, I've got a 96 Cat 5EK. I run the catalyst. I have OPS, fleet air filter, your tune, manifold, turbo, damper, bouncer, and I run the Air Dog pup system on it. About 2 months ago, I took the truck in to have a head gasket leak fixed on it. It was just an external leak. It wasn't blowed or anything. I get the truck back. I have what I call a valve rattle or a diesel rattle in it now. And you can take a water hose and stick it to your ear and stick it on each cylinder. And number 3 is a pronounced rattle. Any ideas?
Yeah. Valves aren't adjusted properly. Take it back to who fixed it.
I done took it back and told them to run the overhead on it, so that wouldn't have nothing to do with the overhead.
Well,
of course it does.
That's what they've messed up, yeah.
Yeah, because I set the overhead myself after the fact, and then it still does it. I carried it back to them. They supposedly ran the overhead. It still does it. They say they couldn't hear it, but I carried it to another mechanic, the guy that did the end frame on it, which the truck has 400,000 on the end frame. So I carried it to him, and he did injector cutout test and everything. That all checked out fine. He found that. He found the number 3 injector had a weak spring on it. So we replaced that injector and put a new injector in it. It still has this rattle in it. And then I've been driving the truck for 8 years. So I know every sound on it. I mean, I do all my work myself. So, I mean, I can't do an overhead, but I mean, all the other stuff I can do, I do myself. But this thing drives me nuts.
Eric, does the 5EK, does the E-model cats have the crosshead to work the valves like the big Cam Cummins does, where you have to adjust them?
I don't believe so. I'll have to check with Brian on that, but I don't believe the 5EKs had that.
What? Okay, because it sounds like he has a crosshead that's wore.
It could be.
Whatever. They have to have a crosshead to push the both valves down. And if we had a big cam and the crosshead was worn or out of adjustment, it would tick like hell.
Yeah.
And so I think you've got a crosshead problem.
Okay.
And the way to find out on that number 3 cylinder is take a set of verniers, and on the top side of the verniers where you can mic the inside of the hole, mic it north and south and then east and west. And if you find 3 or 4 thousandths difference, it's your crosshead making that noise.
Okay. Because when it loads up, like when I go to pull a heel, when it loads up, it goes away. But as it planes back out, the rattle slowly comes back.
Yeah.
So you're saying the crosshead. Check the crosshead. Okay.
Yeah. In the meantime, I don't know how that crosshead looks on that engine. Eric, why don't you run back and ask Adam, and then come back and tell us.
Okay.
What the crosshead's like? Does it ride on a stud, and is it adjustable?
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, I got another question for you. My next engine that I put in this truck, this motor has 2 million miles on it. It's been in-frame twice. And on a 5EK, the water comes out on number 4. And the 6NZ 2WSs, they come out on number 6.
Right.
I'm thinking I want to build a 6NZ to put in this 96, and can I 6NZ 2WSs, they come out on number 6. Can I run a 5EK ECM on that motor? Or I'm thinking I want to build a 6N 70-pin splitter that'll plug into the cab.
What kind of truck is it?
It's a 96 Pete, 379.
Okay. Leroy?
I would keep whatever ECM. I would match the ECM to the engine. I think the splitter never works out that well. That people always have wiring issues with the splitters for some reason. Yeah, and then it's just way easier to program once they're all set up the same. There are some advantages to having a 6NZ ECM, but then you also have to run into the fact that like the 5EKs don't have like the 2 position sensors.
Yeah.
So it's just easier if you just match the engine and ECM together.
Okay, so how would I wire that 70 pin to my truck? Because my truck's a 40 pin.
Yeah, that's way easier. That's probably so it's a 40 pin right now, right?
Correct.
And you're gonna put a 70 pin in there.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, you can just literally unpin the wire out of the 40 pin and then put it in the 70 pin. So if you can buy 70 pin ECM connectors and then you can just move the wires over without like cutting and splicing. You can just pull one out of the 40 pin and put it in the 70. You may have to add a few or take away a few, but you're just really just transferring them over.
Okay. Because I have taken a 2WS out and put a 5EK in another truck, and all I did was buy this adapter that adapted it. But I sold the truck after that, so I don't know how well it did because I sold the truck after that. I called it my money pit truck, so I got rid of it as fast as I could.
Maybe you have good luck with it, but I mean, maybe just because we're a repair shop, the only ones I see are broken ones. Maybe people buy them and they have good luck. Maybe it's a little bit of bias on my side. 'Cause every time I see one with wiring problems, I'm like, these things suck. But that's probably why they're there. They're not here to show them off to me. They're here because they're broken.
Right.
You might have good luck.
All you're saying is just pull the wires out of the 40 pin and put them in the appropriate place on the 70 pin, and we're done.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Okay. That sounds simple enough.
While we're waiting for Eric to come back with that answer, Bill texted me, if you want to mix the max mileage catalyst with the flashpoint, and you want to put it in one of our empty gallon max mileage bottles, and you should stay with that because it's been fluorinated 5 times. In the 1 gallon, you'll put 48 ounces of max mileage and 80 ounces of flashpoint. And that gallon now will treat 1,200 gallons, and it's 2.5 ounces to 25 gallons. That way you just have 1 gallon, you have the flashpoint and the max mileage all in one bottle. To me, I'd carry both bottles, and I would put 1 ounce to 15 of the flashpoint and 1 ounce of the 25 gallon of the max mileage. But for people that want to have it together, that's the mixture rate. 48 ounces to a gallon of max mileage and 80 ounces of flashpoint.
And then 2.5 ounces to 25 gallons.
2.5 ounces to 25 gallons.
All right.
You're still mixing one. It still comes on. It's 1 ounce of catalyst is going into 25 gallon, but the fact that you diluted it with the flashpoint.
Okay, I got it. I got it wrote down.
And everyone should realize today the diesel fuel is pretty poor. Likewise with gasoline, and if you want your truck to run perfect, you're going to have to make your fuel perfect.
Right. Yeah. You can't.
A lot of times
out there on the road.
Right, right. This freighter, the container ship that hit the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Maryland, I was talking on Sunday to a freighter captain that works in the Port of Houston, and he talks about the different fuels that the freighters use coming from different parts of the world, and he thinks that was the issue.
Oh.
He was also telling me what it's like they're going 8 to 10 knots whenever their boat pulls up beside and they steer into the freighter, and he has to jump onto a rope ladder and climb up 30 feet. And he said, you should see what that's like in the wind. But it was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
You better be in shape. What RPMs should I be running this 5EK optimally? I have a 13-speed with 264 rears in it. I'm currently running between 14 and 1500.
That's okay. And on the level, if you want to slow down, you can get it down to 1300. You'll still be okay if you're not in a hurry. But
yeah, I got
13 and up.
Okay. Okay. So what's too high? 16?
No. 16 on the level's too high. 16 when you're working on a mountain is great.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's pretty much where I run it at now anyway.
So what speed do you go with the 264s? And you said you're a 13 speed?
Yes, sir.
And you're in 11th gear. What speed do you normally run?
Empty, 68 to 72.
All right, so now you're using overdrive, right?
Sometimes if I'm running 72, I'll put it in 12. If I'm running 68 or 66, I'll run it in 11.
All right, so when you're in 11th, what's your cruising speed when loaded?
Well, usually because I run 17.5s on a low boy, I usually try to run about 68 when I'm loaded.
Oh. So what's your gross weight?
Depends. Anywhere from legal to 120,000.
All right, so it's 68 in 11th gear. What size tires do you have?
11 more 22.5s.
Okay. What's your RPM?
At 68, about 1350.
Oh. 68, you're at 1350. You're slower than I thought it would be. Let me just look at one of my charts here.
I mean, that tack may be off. I mean, I've got Kevin's scan gauge in there. I could switch it over to that and compare it.
Hold on, I have to bring up my.
All right, I'll do a little.
And looks like we have Eric.
Oh, good. Eric, what'd you find out?
What did you find out?
I found out a lot of information.
Okay.
So according to Adam, all of the bridges are non-adjustable on a cat. That bridge actually sits on top of both valves, and the rocker lever is where you get your adjustment only, where it sits on top of the bridge. Now, if that cup, and that's what we were looking. I actually had one out in the shop, and I'm a little out of breath because, yeah, that's a long walk back here.
I don't think that's you're out of breath.
Yeah, okay, let's move on here.
Yeah.
I can walk there and back.
Yeah.
Hey,
you weigh $135.
Let's just call a spade here.
But the puck on there, if it were to happen to come off or maybe get cracked or some damage happen to that puck on the bottom of the adjustment screw, that's where you may have a little bit of noise. Or the other thing is if that adjustment screw happened to be stripped out or something at the end of the rocker arm itself, maybe there's a hairline fracture that it's actually opening up whenever you try torquing it down. It's got to be somewhere in that adjustment screw rocker arm from what I'm seeing though, because the bridge is completely non-adjustable. They are directional, one side is perfectly round, the other one's kind of elliptical or egg-shaped almost. And I'm not sure why they do that. I guess just for simplicity of installing them. But I would imagine it's something to do with the rocker arm itself is where your noise is coming from.
Okay, that's funny you mentioned that, because I think it's number 3. I don't remember if it's the exhaust or the intake, but one of those adjustment screws, when you go to adjust it, it's hard to turn, almost as if it's cross-threaded. And then when you go to torque it down, it's a little odd. So that may be what it is. I may need to go to Cat and buy a new adjustment screw and everything and a puck and put on there and readjust the overhead on it.
When you get that out of there, run a tap or a thread chase or something. Try to clean up them threads too, and maybe even go to a hardware store and get a bolt the same size thread pitch. Just run it in and out with your hands, and make sure that there's no like tight spots or anything. What I've done too is, like in a situation like that on a race car, is I'll actually nut and bolt it, and I'll torque it to like 50 or 60 foot-pounds, and then try to look at it with a flashlight and see if there's any hairline fractures that are trying to open up under pressure. Because sometimes you can't see that whenever it's like that, but you can replicate it with a nut and bolt on your workbench.
Okay. All right. Well, that gives me a sense of direction then. That's actually starting to make a little bit more sense. Because I was thinking maybe the peanut gear, the cam gear was not shimmed right, or they messed something up and a valve got out of adjustment or broke or something on weak spring or something. I'm sitting there racking my brain trying to figure this out. But I think that may be where I need to focus my attention to next on it. I mean, I put 15,000 miles on it since that. Is it going to be any problem to keep running it a little bit until I can get time to break it down?
I don't think so. I mean, if you noticed any difference in like your fuel mileage or performance or anything?
Yeah, I've noticed my fuel mileage has gone down a little bit, and the performance doesn't seem to be as good as it was. And of course, I about that time I did all this, I transitioned from flatbed to a low boy that's like pulling a 4x8 sheet of plywood down the road. So, I mean, and I'm heavier now. So everything that applied to the flatbed nothing applied to this trailer because it's heavier and no aerodynamics whatsoever.
I have a question for you. On your 68 mile per hour, you said you're at 1350. Are you sure you're in 11th gear, or are you in 12th gear then?
11. It may be closer to 14, because I got wrote down here. I got all this wrote down. It may be closer to 1400 at 68.
Because on Charlie Beiser's, when we put his 264s in, low pro 22.5 at 68 miles an hour, he's at 1512 RPM.
And that's with low pros. So what would
low pro 22.5?
What would that be with 11 Rs? Probably.
Oh, 11 R. Okay, so it's going to be 14. 3 mile an hour difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all right. So you're tall 22.5.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the difference then.
Yep.
Okay. So it's because I got 1400 wrote down at 68, and about roughly 1500 at 72 is in the ballpark where it runs.
Yeah, at 70 he's at 1560. So well, the tires make quite a difference.
They can.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate the information.
You're
gentlemen
welcome.
have a blessed day.
Thanks for the call.
Hey, don't forget, you might want to look at the push rod, the cylinder, number 3 cylinder. You may want to look at that push rod too. I think maybe I'd replace the push rod.
All right. We are going to head to Texas this time. Tony, welcome.
Tony, welcome. I'd like to hug you. They just might keep following me.
Hey, Tony. We're live here. Tony. I'm not sure what's going on in the background, but I don't think we want to hear it.
Good eye, mate.
There you are.
So I've been running the max mileage catalyst for a year now, and I'm in the shop over there at Redneck Diesel, and he said nothing about that it was clear and everything, but those manifold bolts that had been broken off. He said he had a tough time drilling them out, but they were able to save the head. Does any of you have any idea what that could mean? The manifold bolts in the back of the passenger side of the engine had, they were missing, so they took it off and I guess drilled them out and put new ones back in, put my manifold back in. Is that the head, like of the cylinder head, or
that's the cylinder head, and you had some broken. Apparently, you had some broken exhaust manifold bolts, and like on the Caterpillar, we have a fixture that actually guides the drill bit, but on that Max Force PACCAR engine, they would have to free drill it and either tap them easy out or whatever. But it's a problem. Motorhomes, especially motorhomes from back in the late 90s, were notorious for breaking bolts. Even on those V10 Ford engines they used in those motorhomes, constantly drilling out broken exhaust manifold bolts and studs.
I might have missed what you said about as to the condition of the engine. What that might mean about that for him saying that we were able to save the head.
He was able to save the head and get the broken bolt out of the head, and they'd be able to retap the hole and put new bolts in it.
Okay, so that doesn't mean that like that piston is damaged or might need to be replaced soon. Like the engine
has nothing to do, Tony.
fine.
It has nothing to do with the piston.
Oh, all right. So
the head's on
in
top
other words,
block.
Yeah. So in some cases, I guess he means like they aren't able to, like they have to put in a new head in order to get the bolts out.
No. He said that he was able to get them out, and so he saved your head.
Oh, okay.
It's all good.
This is
It's
evidently,
all good.
evidently a max mileage dealer, and I do got to say that I told him when I was having the soot problem, that's the reason it came in, is to relieve that. I've been running the max mileage, and he said, well, no, we've never heard of it. Today, when I went to call him just to see how it was doing, I noticed on the back of his card the max mileage symbol on there. It's a pretty nice card he's got, but I found that a little strange. So I'm going to ask him about that. Why is it on his card, but he's never heard of it?
He knows the max mileage catalyst. When he first looked at it, I remember talking to Todd at the Dallas Truck Show.
This is James. I guess maybe they just print them all cards, and that must be what it is. Yeah, he's a PACCAR guy. They're PACCAR guy there, I guess, and has dealt with PACCAR since they came out. So I'll ask him. That's good. But yeah, they're a Pittsburgh Power max mileage catalyst dealer out there at Redneck Diesel, and they're working on my truck. Last question, if I may. Kevin, I've got no way to pay for this. I don't want to say that brokers owe me money from my last loads, but I've got maybe $4,000 in credit card. And the financing company that they use has denied, first time I've ever been denied for credit on paying to get my truck out of the shop and work. And that's with a broken reefer. I can only haul dry loads with it till they give me a new one. Any ideas? My girlfriend told me a title loan.
Well,
Like that, I might
first
be able
off,
How
to
much
do
is the
that.
bill?
First
How
off,
much is the bill?
go ahead.
7,000. He said 7,000. That was initially, but he said it took tougher than he thought to get the bolts out. Hopefully, it hasn't gone up.
So this is much bigger than how do we pay for this repair. Credit's getting tight, credit's getting expensive, and we shouldn't be borrowing money for repairs. Certainly nothing under 15,000. And honestly, we shouldn't really ever have to borrow for repairs unless we have a catastrophic failure we just couldn't see coming and we hadn't had time to save. So remind me, when did you buy your first truck?
That was, I think, in 2009.
So you got in at the end of the bad cycle last time. The bigger question is, are you in the CMC and the coaching program?
No.
I'm
not.
This where do I get the money to pay for this repair? It's not a good question. I mean, if we find it and you don't change something about your operation, you're going to be back here the next time you're broke down again, and you won't have paid off the 7,000, and you're not going to get. We can't borrow our way to prosperity, is what I'm trying to say. We have to figure out what is wrong with your business model that there isn't 7,000 there to pay for a repair without borrowing.
And for all those people that are laughing at me that don't have their authority and are leased to a company, I still win because I'm doing the hard work. I listen to the program. I have fuel gauges. I do all the things I know how to do. I've just made some choices about my health I put a priority on my health.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should.
Top physical condition, and it's come at the expense of the business.
And the other thing I tell people all the time,
the rest of the people,
businesses are always risky.
But
always.
You can't put a price on your health.
I agree.
I didn't know about the certified master carrier class until it was already too late. Probably.
It's not too late. You could sign up.
But still, I love it when company drivers call in making fun of me that don't even have their authority.
Ignore them. You could sign up right after this call. I'll put you back on hold. You could sign up and you would be attending the first event this afternoon. The first webinar is this afternoon.
Not going to do me much good when I'm probably going to have to leave the truck there.
You are correct. If you are in a position where you can't get the truck out, then what I might recommend, instead of signing up for the CMC, sign up for the coaching program and submit some P&Ls and some other stuff, and I'll look them over by Thursday and see if I can come up with any ways out of this. I'll give you some time to think about that, and if you decide, you can join the coaching program at any time. If you can submit some financial records to me, I'll review them, and I'll see if I can come up with a path out. Let's go to Oklahoma. Paul, welcome.
Howdy.
What's on your mind today?
The guy that bought the deleted Freightliner, I think it was, he just needs to show up at that where he got it from and say, if you don't give me my money back, I'll get a lawyer and they'll call the EPA and you'll be totally out of business. So give me my money.
Yeah, this doesn't sound like a tough one at all.
It's like screwing with the tax man.
Yeah. I'm shocked that a dealer sold a truck like this.
Yeah. Well, I sort of am, and I sort of aren't in some ways. So I know a guy who bought one of the last 389s, and he took it to his house. He picked it up, took it to his house. Then he had it sat there for a couple of months while he's trying to work out what he's going to do, because he's a die-hard Caterpillar guy.
Okay.
So he sends me pictures one day. It's loaded on a step deck, and it went up there to Pennsylvania, not to Pittsburgh Power, but somewhere over near Shoemaker, I think the name of the town is. I don't know the name of the business. And he sent me a picture of it yesterday, and it's got a Caterpillar engine sitting in it. It's a 2024 389.
Huh.
He pulled out an ISX with about less than 400 miles on it, and put a Caterpillar engine in it.
This is the second time we've heard things like this, that they were buying new trucks, yanking engines out, putting in old pre-emission engines, and thinking it would qualify as a glider.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, well then, so this guy who's doing the work, he has some wiring guy that they pulled the engine harness off, or I'm not sure if it's the engine harness or the whole wiring loom or what, but they pulled it off and they sent it over to Michigan, and this guy's a bit of a wizard about making it where this digital dashboard, it's got a digital dashboard in it, where this digital dashboard will work with this Caterpillar.
We've got a company out here that I worked with to possibly build one of the signature gliders, and the whole deal didn't work out, but that was their specialty, was wiring harnesses to put any engine in any truck. They could custom wire stuff. They were really good at it. What I don't understand here, I don't understand why we're doing this. Why are we taking really expensive, newer trucks and yanking out an engine and putting in something else? What do we think the ultimate goal to this is going to be? Because I got to tell you, the cost per mile on this truck is going to be outrageously expensive.
Yeah, well, one of his reasons that he does it, and I'm pretty sure he's not listening. He don't listen very often, and I don't really care if he is listening. He likes to be an outlaw, and he don't want to have an ELD. So, yeah.
So he also believes that he's going to be exempt from an ELD because the engine is older in an illegal truck?
Yeah. That's what he thinks, but I'll guarantee you he'll run a paper log. So he likes to rewrite history. So, yeah, it's crazy. But
yeah,
so the money he spent on the Caterpillar is more than what the guy is going to give him for the Cummins, complete with all the emission, the DEF tank, the filters, the whole lot.
This makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, really, if the reason is I want to not have an ELD, why not? I mean, and I'm serious about this. Why not go back? He's got to have well over 200,000 into this.
Well, it was 215 when he bought it.
So he's
got to
be
all the work on it.
He's got to be north of 250, I'll bet. So let's think about this.
Oh, probably.
Why not? I would be all for this. Why not buy any late 90s, early 2000 truck with a cat that you really like and spend $250,000 reconditioning that truck instead? That would actually make more sense.
Do you know what he drives at the moment?
What?
It's a 2018 or 2019 Peterbilt genuine glider. That's what he's got now.
Well, that makes sense. I don't understand putting $250,000 into an inefficient truck.
Yeah, well, it's crazy.
Inefficient and illegal. He could be put out of business over that truck.
Yeah, but crazy. There's crazy
Yeah, it is.
people amongst us. So, what's the The guy with the big bunk that did the gearing swap. What's his name? Is it Brian or something? Earlier call.
I don't know, but I want him to call me this afternoon. I want to write down some figures at the 228 with the X15 or ISX. And
yeah, well, I want to talk to that guy too if he's listening. So.
Okay, if he calls me, Paul, I'll call you. And
yep.
I have a 3 o'clock appointment, and I have a 1 o'clock appointment. So hopefully he'll call and leave Kathy his name and number, and I'll call him back later today.
All right, there we go. Hey, Paul, I got to cut you loose. Just looked up at the clock. We got to wrap this up at 10 o'clock today. We're going to go to Ohio for the last call. Justin, welcome.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good. What can we help you with today?
I got a question. I got a PM done the other day, and I had the Shell Rotella put in, and it was quite a bit expensive. It was like, $400 like upcharge or whatever. Is there any way that I can go without? Because I want to get the OPS put on. I want to have it done at Pittsburgh Power, and until I get up there, I was wanting to know if I just change the factory filters and do oil sampling until I can do that.
What engine and what year?
2020 Peterbilt, 579.
With a pack car? Or a Cummins?
ISX.
So the Cummins, I believe in that year is at least 50,000 on an oil change. What does your owner's manual say for drain intervals?
To be honest, I haven't been able to find that in there.
Cummins
I looked through it. I couldn't.
Yeah, it's in
find
there.
Anything
Cummins is the weird one. If you do certain things and run certain oils and run their sample program, I think they actually go out to 70 or 75,000.
It's also based on fuel mileage too. Like if you have to have a lifetime average for 6.5 miles a gallon, and then they'll rate you up to 60 or 65,000 miles. But it's not really recommended on the oil, just as long as it's a good oil. They do recommend the Valvoline Blue if you have like issues with the carbon or anything like that.
Right. It's a complicated program, and it doesn't need to be that complicated, because here's all you need to do. You could skip all of their qualifications, all of that, trying to figure out what you're supposed to do. And I would start sampling. Well, I would sample at 25, and then I would sample again at 50. And if those samples are good, then don't change the oil and sample again at 75. I mean, all we're doing is we're doing an extended drain program without a bypass filter. So we won't make it as long, but we're sampling based on oil condition, not on a set mileage or a set fuel consumption, which both are inaccurate. The most accurate way to know when to change your oil is to sample it.
Okay.
And then when you get the OPS installed, you would
makes
just
you feel
keep
more
doing the same
comfortable,
thing.
change the spin-on fuel or a full flow oil filter.
Sure.
Okay. Just like every 20, 25,000, something like that?
That's what I do at 25.
It can't hurt other than you may be spending more money than what you need. Again, if we go back to the owner's manual and it shows just a 50,000 mile, which I believe it is, then that filter is rated for 50,000 miles as well.
Okay.
So the only thing I'm really interested in doing early are samples. I just think the 25,000 mile interval for samples makes sense no matter how long the oil drain interval is, because there are things that can go wrong. I mean, that's why even though we have engines we know will go 250,000 miles on their oil with the OPS on it, we still sample every 25,000. And that's so we catch those problems before they cause damage. Fuel dilution, coolant intrusion, high silicon. So the sample interval never really changes at 25,000. And then we just change the oil based on that oil condition.
How would you get the oil out without the OPS that has the little spout?
So there are a couple ways. The easiest is what they call a vampire tube. You just get a plastic tube and you hold your thumb over it and you stick it down the filler, and well, you push it in, put your thumb over it, and then pull it back out, and then you drain that tube into a bottle. You can get some false readings if it scrapes the side too much, but I've never really seen it become a problem. I mean, I've seen lots of oil samples done with the vampire tube that are accurate.
Okay. All right. I got one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So this truck is new to us, but it has like almost 550,000 miles, and I thought it would be a good idea the other day to go ahead and have the differential oil drained and refilled, just so I could see like what the condition of the oil was when it came out. And the guy that did the PM said that there was metal shavings in there, and it was like really, like black and not really great looking. Like the truck doesn't run bad. I don't feel anything abnormal. And I put full synthetic back in it. And the guy said to maybe run it for a couple or a few months and then drain it again and see what it looked like. Does that sound about right?
No, that's horrible advice. How much did you
recommend?
Well, here's why. How much did you pay to have them change the fluid in those differentials?
Can't remember right offhand.
It's not cheap.
No. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't.
No, but here's my point. That oil is good for 500,000 miles, and he wants you to drain it back out in a couple months. That's just a bad idea. Why didn't he recommend a sample when he took the first oil out?
I'm not following. Sample.
An oil sample, just like we were just talking about with engines. We can sample that. We should sample that differential fluid at 500,000 miles. That's when I recommend doing it. This idea of, well, there's metal shavings, it looks black, it smells funny. None of that stuff matters. I've seen people rub it on their forehead. None of it matters. Get an oil sample. That's what they're for. And we would have known. We wouldn't be putting in really expensive oil and then trying to drain it out a couple months later.
Okay. So just do the same with that here in a few months? Pull a sample of that and send it in?
I wouldn't do it now. I would give that, honestly, I'd give it like 50,000 miles.
Okay. So, about the time I do another oil change or whatever.
Yeah, the next time you're in the shop for service, if you're anywhere between like 30 and 50,000 miles on that differential fluid, I would sample it.
Okay, and to sample it, I just buy like them OPS kits?
Same kits.
Rear differential on it?
Yep, same kits. You just fill out the paperwork telling them what component it was. Oh, and we lost that call. It just disappeared. All right, we're going to wrap this up. I do have a CMC to get ready for today. If anybody wants to sign up for the CMC, signups are still open. So you can either head over to letstrucktribe.com or you can call Tribe Care. I think I have one other announcement to make, and then we'll see if anybody has any final words. Tomorrow on Destination Health, James White from our lab, KBMO, where we do our fit test and our gut barrier test. James will be joining us tomorrow, and we have a special we are running on those tests. The gut barrier test can really tell us a lot. So head on over to the website, letstruck.com, and we will see you back here tomorrow for Destination Health. All right. Anybody have any final words of wisdom?
I just wanted to say it was a great show today. A lot of great questions.
I agree. Good stuff. Anybody else?
Not for me.
All right.
Nope. I'm enjoying the weather.
All right. We will see you guys next week. Thanks to the team from Pittsburgh Power as always. If you have any other questions between now and next Tuesday, give them a call. Support them as well. They do have these cool shirts. Are you guys going to say? I just found out you guys have the same design in a hoodie. Is that true?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, anything on our website like that can be one-off too. So all of our full entourage of T-shirts and apparel is on our website. What we have here in the store is just limited. We have I think 5, 6 different.
Yeah, I think we drop ship those. So we'll get the order, then we make them.
Yeah.
We get them made and then send them out to you.
Yep.
So that's
cool program, Jordan.
That's all good information, but it doesn't answer my question.
Yes, they're in hoodies.
Where's my hoodie? That's my question.
You didn't ask for a hoodie. You asked for a T-shirt.
I don't
and
remember
you got a
asking
T-shirt.
for anything. The T-shirt just showed up, which was nice, but now I am asking for a hoodie.
Okay, well, I'll have to talk to Jordan.
What design do you want on it, Kevin?
The same thing?
The same thing. I love this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you get it to me before next week, I'll wear it next week.
Okay.
And
see what we can
I
do.
know that I already sold at least one of these today on the show. Somebody already bought one.
Wow.
Cool. See that?
That's awesome.
I know. All right.
Good job, Jordan.
We're going to wrap this up. We will see everybody here tomorrow. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.